Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 456 of the Stacey West podcast. I am your host, Ben, and I'm joined tonight by Charlie. How you doing, mate? You keeping well?
Very well, Ben. I am very nicely rested. I was away last week, enjoyed a lovely little holiday, and now I am back. And do you know what? I was really disappointed going away at the time that I did. I missed Exeter away, probably would have been there. Missed Stockport at home, probably would have been there. But it doesn't matter because we win anyway. And I get to celebrate it watching it on TV. I get to celebrate it when we do get to watch it in the stands. And yeah, I'm just so happy that I'm going to be a Championship football fan next season. But anyway, we'll get to that. How are you, Ben?
I'm good, mate. Yeah.
Happy birthday for yesterday.
Thank you.
Did you manage to get yourself a cake? Did you manage to really enjoy it? I mean, I take it there wasn't really much on that you got up to, was there?
I've not had a cake. I'm keeping my cake moment for a little bit later on in the month when I'm having a party, and I'm pretty sure my cake will be arriving then. At least I hope it will be. My wife is watching, so I'm sure she'll confirm. But yeah, no, I had a really nice day. Yesterday, we got up. We were both off, so got up a little bit later than normal. Chilled out, opened a few prezzies, and then got in the car. Had the pretty short-ish trip over to Huddersfield.
Huddersfield for your birthday? Why on earth would you do that?
I know. I mean, of all the romantic locations to go for an evening away,
I mean, Rachel really does know how to woo you. Taking you to a travel lodge in Huddersfield.
A travel lodge in Huddersfield is absolutely the perfect romantic getaway destination. But yeah, no, it was really nice. Thanks, mate. Yeah, we got into the pub and there was a pub next to the hotel. And then throughout the afternoon and into the early evening, just sort of, people coming in red and white shirts and having quite a few people in a place that was, a little bit of a distance away that I've never seen before, coming up and saying happy birthday and I'm a fan of the podcast. So that was quite a bizarre moment, but yeah, very, very much appreciated for everybody that took the time out yesterday to say hello and wish me a happy birthday. But it was good. And then it was on the way back today from Huddersfield. The thing was, right, had a lovely birthday. We've had a lovely game of football that has ended with absolute bedlam. You get up in the morning and on the way back, what are the words that you don't want to hear, Charlie?
Should we go to Meadow Hall?
Yeah, they're the exact words that you don't want to hear. Yeah, so we swung by Meadow Hall on the way home, and it was quite an expensive detour, but there we go. So yeah, I mean, obviously the reason that we went to Huddersfield was to watch the Imps, and hopefully going in, we were hoping that we would extend the unbeaten run to 21 games. We were hopeful that we'd see the 7th win on the bounce against the Huddersfield side that I think me and Chris both picked up in our previews that they've struggled to score many in recent weeks, and kind of I think we were all pretty confident, to be honest, that we'd come away with 3 points. And then I think the lineup came out. I thought, oh, that's a bit of a strange one. Yeah, the lineup, it just felt really odd, didn't it, when it came out? Because Alfie Lloyd started, which I thought was a bit of a surprise. Obviously, he did do very well at the weekend, got his goal. And you think, okay, well, yeah, he's maybe deserved his start. And then Conor McGrandles was playing, and Dom Jeffries was named, and you think, is he going to be playing in midfield? Like, how is that one going to work? And trying to figure out where Dom Jeffries was going to play, I think, was the talking point for all of us before the game, wasn't it? It seemed a bit strange.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, on Alfie Lloyd, he definitely earned himself a start with the way that he's been playing ever since he's come on. When he does make those sub appearances, we see, first of all, we see the amount that he's willing to run and the effort that he's willing to put in. But I also see that there's something a little bit more there. There's a little bit of ability. I'm not to say a little bit of ability. He's a professional footballer, after all. I'm sure there's quite a lot of that. But he's obviously got the technical ability to go with it, as well as that kind of relentless running and pressure that he's willing to give on. So I was really happy to see him get his start. And I know there was a question that came in on our Patreon Discord over the course of sort of the weekend and the start of this week before yesterday's game, saying, would you prefer to keep him on the bench and have his impact off the bench rather than from the start? And I fully understood that point, although my kind of rebuttal was how many people had said that. I know I definitely did, about Jack Moylan at one point. So let's give him that chance and see if he can perform from there. And then the rest of it, exactly as you say. I mean, Dom Jeffries was probably the biggest shock. Very much so. First of all, there was conversations that happened on commentary on Saturday on Imps Plus, where John Helm did kind of make a comment to suggest that he'd been told that Dom Jeffries was still very much struggling with his 2 operations that I believe he's had over the course of the last couple of years, and that it's unlikely that we would see him play a full 90 or really play from the start. That was on Saturday. And then he starts last night, which was very much the biggest surprise. Okay, he only got himself 62 minutes, but that's more than he has played in any other game, I think, all season, if I'm honest. Even in any cup competitions, I can't actually remember him playing that many minutes in a game either. So that he was very much shocked. And it felt like, okay, we're probably going quite attacking here, which we did, and we'll touch on whether or not that worked in a little bit. But it reminded me a little bit of Barnsley away a few years back, and I remember standing around Oakwell, and I think it was actually the game that we ended up battering them. But I remember standing around there, and our lineup was very, very attacking. We hardly really had any midfielders. I think Ethan Abraham was out for that game, and I think we had Danny Mandroyu and Jack Moylan starting as the 2 central midfielders, technically, in that game, off the top of my head. And it just felt like, okay, we're going all out here. Like, this is a do or die sort of a game. Let's go. Let's have this. And it felt a little bit similar when looking at the lineup yesterday. And realistically, probably played out like that for the first 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, it felt strange. I mean, so the biggest thing, obviously, we're looking at, Don Jeffries, like you say. I thought to myself, well, he'll have a half, and then he'll probably come off at half time, depending on how he's doing. But it did look from the get go that we were playing kind of a 4-1-3-2 with Conor McGrandles in the 1, kind of looking to be the defensive midfielder on his own. And then, Jeffries kind of playing out on the left with House on the right. And then we've got, Street and Lloyd up top with Moylan in the middle. And it felt, I mean, we'll come on to Huddersfield's first goal in a second, but it felt a little bit strange. Like, Malcolm's actually made the point in the chat that in his post-match, Skubala was saying that the starting formation was to combat the way that Huddersfield were expected to play, but they didn't play like that. And I think, kind of trying to catch them by surprise. You just think, okay, it's not quite worked out. But we did start relatively okay. I think it was Ben House had a shot very early doors, a bit of a tame effort in the end. But you think, okay, we might have something here. But then Huddersfield kind of got themselves into it, and then this is the bit where that solo defensive midfielder felt like they'd got it wrong. So the ball comes through. Conor McGrandles is on his own in the middle of in the defensive spot in midfield, and as the ball comes through, to, I think it was to Anthony Evans, you watch Tom Hamer, and Tom Hamer goes to him rather than, McGrandle's midfield partner closing him down and coming in. So as Hamer goes up to him, he then leaves Sonny Bradley on his own. Yeah. Evans then plays the ball through to Ryan Hardy, and I can't take anything away from Ryan Hardy. It's a really good finish. It's a decent goal. He takes the ball, just drags it away from Bradley. Reach is coming across as well to cover it, and yeah, he kind of just knocks it by the side of Adam Reach and puts a decent finish past George Wickens. Now, in that moment, you think, okay, we can see what's happened. We can see how they've got it, how they've set up. It's different to how maybe they expected it. But in that moment, Charlie, was there a little bit of doubt starting to creep into your mind?
There was absolutely a lot of doubt creeping into my mind. Like I said, I mean, I'll touch on the goal first. Do you know what? If Ryan Hardy had scored that for us, we'd be lauding the composure of the finish and being able to take his time and to not be fazed by having Adam Reach and Sonny Bradley basically running at him. And that takes a lot of experience to not be too concerned about that. And I don't really think we can say much more in terms of the defending from them two, certainly. We could talk about the positioning, which is probably what we'll kind of touch on. I am all for trying to set up differently to sidestep an opposition in a way, right? Mm-hmm. We did it against Cardiff. I was talking to someone before the game against Cardiff who had told me that Skubala's plan was basically, let's do their heads in and let's confuse them and do something totally different and see if it see if it works. Basically, try and make it work, and it did. And what a day out that was. So to then go ahead and try and do that again against Huddersfield, put something different, I'm all for it. He trusts the lads in the team to be able to try and execute that. So what probably did hurt us, and exactly, as has been brought up, Skubala did say in his post-match press conference, Huddersfield didn't quite play the way that we expected. They ended up playing quite direct throughout a lot of the game, which then found McGrandle's getting really, really isolated. You had, Jack Moylan, Ben House, Dom Jeffries as well, sort of all just in front of him, but they were too far in front of him. They're attacking players. They were a little bit further up the pitch. They don't necessarily want to be running back quite as much in the early stages of the game to try and kind of cover that half space area around where Conor McGrandles is, as much as you would see from a Tom Bayliss or an Ivan Varfolomaev. So we very much saw that McGrandles was isolated, and to be fair, I think he was doing the absolute best he could in those moments. And yeah, when that first goal went in, it sort of proved what I think a lot of us were thinking about the way that we were setting up, and the fact that it just wasn't really working, and the fact that whether something needed to change in terms of personnel early, whether something needed to change in terms of tactics early, or whether we could try and grow into the game. This was just something about familiarity. Did everybody know their roles absolutely and able to execute them quite as Skubala would have maybe hoped for early on? And to be honest, I don't really think too much changed immediately. We grew into the game a little bit later, obviously, but I don't really think there was any immediate change after their first goal. Where again, what would happen, and you would see it quite a lot, is McGrandles would pick up the ball in his kind of natural six role position, and then in terms of playing the ball, he couldn't really have anybody to play out with in terms of another central midfielder. He'd maybe have to go to Tendai Darikwa at right wing back to try and help get the ball out. You saw Tendai actually playing really, really high for a lot of the game yesterday. Probably, again, just to try and sort of fill some of that gap and to be able to help McGrandles in bringing that ball forward. And you also felt that when McGrandles was going in for those duels, which we saw a lot of the time and which we often see him do, those second balls weren't being won because there wasn't really anybody there to pick them up. And how many times this season have we said our biggest strength is winning second balls? Winning second balls wins you football matches. There is absolutely no denying that. That's where a lot of the teams that outperform their budgets that's where they end up thriving. It's because they're doing those, and a lot of people call them the basics, right? Because I think if you're sat there in the stand, the basics are you win the second ball. It's a lot easier to actually execute that. But doing those basics right, and that's exactly what we struggled to do early on because of the fact that Connor was going in, he was grueling, he was doing those hard yards, but there was nobody then to run onto the ball afterwards, other than having a defender sort of step forward and run onto the ball, and then we lose a little bit of shape at the back. Or you see one of the front sort of three in behind the front two of Moylan's, Jeffries and House running back to try and run onto it. But then if they're running back to run onto it, their back is then to goal, and they've got to turn themselves around and be able to move the ball forward. So it definitely did feel a little bit too disjointed early on.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it was one of those moments where you watch it, you think, when you're in the stand and you see why is the midfield that open, and like you say, if Conor McGrandles is making that tackle, how is he not coming away with the ball? And like you say, if you've not got somebody picking up that second ball for you, I mean, I've got his stats up in front of me at the minute. Normally, we'd expect to see, Connor winning quite a lot of duels and having a decent, spread of passes. Accurate passes, 41 out of 53. Accurate long balls, only 2 from 6. And the ground duels won. I think this was the one that probably shocked me a little bit more than anything else. 1 from 7 last night for Connor. I think it's probably fair to say that he didn't have his best spell in that first half. But that doesn't mean, as people around me were trying to ascertain last night, that he is shit. He didn't have the best of starts in a new system that we attempted to play to combat a system that Huddersfield were going to play that they ended up not doing. So yeah, it was a difficult first half an hour or so for Connor last night. And then that was kind of followed up. Hardy scores. The next shot on the clock is the goal from Ledson. Now, I think it's fair to point out here that Sean Rowan was getting a bit of stick last night. And, as is the way, Gaz has said it many, many times, football's a bit of pantomime. You need your heroes, you need your villains. For some fans last night, Sean Rowan was the villain. There was an actual villain, and we will come on to him a little bit later on. But Sean was getting absolute pelters, and we were right down the front, sort of behind the goal to the left as you look at the pitch. So we were looking at, we were looking right at it, and Sean was more or less in front of us when he came to take the throw in. He had the biggest grin on his face when everyone was booing him. And you just think, okay, yeah, we know what's going to happen here. Sure enough, long throw comes in, comes off the head of Tom Hamer, lands at the feet of Ledson, who, again, I can't really argue. It's a decent finish. I can't find too much to complain about from a defensive standpoint. He's just managed to pluck one out in that instance. I mean, the numbers, if you want to go down the Chris route, the numbers on that 0.13 xg. It's not an easy chance. It's not an easy finish, but he's done well to score.
First of all, there's a certain irony when you were talking there of saying Sean Rowan with the long throw in off of the head of Tom Hamer.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. First of all, pantomime villain. Do you know what? I don't mind it too much. I think a lot of players actually get spurred on by it, and do you know what? It's a bit of fun. So that's absolutely fine. The goal, yeah, look, it was a great chance. Not very often that you will see us conceding goals like that. There's even a psychological argument to sort of say, if we weren't already 1-0 down and weren't already feeling a little bit on the ropes, which I think we were probably in the stands, maybe more than what the players felt, would we have conceded that goal in that manner? Maybe not. Maybe it doesn't go through there. Maybe there is a head getting in the way. Maybe, the defender is in front of his man there. who knows? But no, it was a good finish as to what he needed to do from that position. Again, it's another one where, do you know what? We'd be celebrating it, we'd be lauding it. It's the sort of finish that you'd probably see like Freddie Draper making, honestly, in the area with kind of his height and his physicality to sort of beat the players around him. And there's nothing that George Wickens could have done or anything like that. And it was just one of those that it was fair enough if we were 2-0 up and that was a goal that they scored, but it was the fact that it was the second goal to go 2-0 down, and then suddenly that unbeaten run that we have really wanted to cling on to for so long now was slowly slipping out of our hands.
Yeah, it definitely felt like that, and at that point, if you feel we need to make a change here, there wasn't a change in personnel, but I don't really know at what point there was a shift in shape. But it definitely felt like once the second goal had gone in, and this is probably a combination of the two things, where a lot of Huddersfield fans I've seen after the fact have said, "Oh, we took a foot off the pedal," as soon as we scored the second. But at the same time, we started to just turn the screw a little bit. I mean, I'm looking through the shots here, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 shots from Huddersfield up until their goal, and they only had 8 shots in total.
Yeah.
So in the first 20 minutes, they had half the shots that they took in the entire game. I don't know if it was whether they took their foot off the pedal, or whether it was that we kind of started to get a grip on things. Either way, just 9 minutes later, Tom Hamer causes chaos, and Feeney heads the ball past his own keeper into the top corner. I mean, in fairness to him, it's not a bad header, but it's just in the wrong end. And Josh
Feeney,
Feeney,
great header. I was really, really impressed with it. Honestly, I want to sign him up. Get him on the end of Tom Hamer's long throw-ins.
Well, he might be able to be signed up in another position as well, but we'll talk about that a bit later on as well. He
was trying his best to help us win yesterday, wasn't he?
Yeah, it seemed like it. But yeah, it was unfortunate from him. But again, it just shows, Tom Hamer creating that chaos, throws the ball way into the mixer, and I think that Josh Feeney getting his head on that ball doesn't happen if Sonny Bradley is in a different spot. Because the only way he's got his head on that ball is because he's climbing all over Sonny Bradley.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that's a penalty, because it's not. It happens all the time. But he is properly, climbing on Sonny Bradley, pushes down, gets his head on it. And Chris used my favourite footballing insult in the WhatsApp last night. He 50p headed it past his own keeper. I love that insult so much. But yeah, all we could see from the other end was it came off somebody. The keeper flapped at it, and then it goes in. And you kind of think, okay, we're back in this now. It felt like, that felt like, well, the real turning point in the game, didn't it?
It did, and do you know what? You can probably talk luck just as much as anything else, really. But up until our first goal, which was an own goal, but up until that, we'd only had 2 shots ourselves, and like we've said up to this, we didn't look in the game as much as we normally do in first halves, especially home or away from home this season. We constantly look like we're taking it to the opposition, and realistically yesterday it was flipped. We had possession of the ball, and yet we weren't the ones taking it to Huddersfield in the same way as we have been doing. And then when that goal goes in, it settles nerves a little bit. It's kind of that moment where you think, okay, actually maybe I'm overreacting here, because honestly I was sat there in the WhatsApp group and I was saying I wouldn't be that surprised to see a first half change. And again, we sort of joked about it, didn't we? Because I was probably just being spoiled I've been spoiled by the last 20 games of football, and I want these 4-0 wins back. Where was the easy Northampton style wins? I want them every week. I don't want all of this stress. But to go 2-0 down. When was the last time we did that? In fact, the last time we did that would have been against Wickham. And obviously we lost that game, and that's then playing on the back of your mind and things like this. So when that goal went in, it really did help kind of just settle the nerves out, think, actually, no, we're all right here. Let's now try and kick on. Let's use this as a bit of a kickstarter to hopefully frighten Huddersfield a little bit, which, again, we're going to touch on because they were unbelievably soft when the pressure was put on them yesterday. But we wanted to really hope that one goal advantage would then frighten them, and hopefully we could sort of take that to be able to move ourselves forward, and potentially get something out of the game.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I don't think there was necessarily a big shift in well, there definitely, obviously, I say, wasn't any personnel changes until after half time, but it felt to me like once we'd found that moment, with the goal, like you say, it settled the nerves a little bit, and you think, okay, well, we know what Lincoln City can do. We know, we've seen it. We've seen it multiple times this season. That we're not going to just roll over and concede this game, because that is just not what we do. And sure enough, I think Moylan had an effort from distance. I think it came out, the ball came out to Adam Reach at one point, and he looked like he'd may have had another Reachy screamer, but unfortunately was off target with that. And then looking at this, Huddersfield had a couple more shots before the moment at the end of the first half where I think that's looking back at it, I think it maybe is a bit of a soft free kick from a Huddersfield perspective. I think Sean Rowan gets the ball. Gooch got I think the free kick may have been given for the initial challenge from Gooch rather than the challenge from Rowan, because I thought it was a really good challenge from Sean Rowan to dispossess Jack Moylan, but got the free kick. Moylan lofts it in. It finds its way back to him, and I just want to highlight the run that he makes for that is absolutely fantastic, because he takes the free kick. It goes over, and I think, was it Bradley that heads it back across?
Yes, I think it was.
Yeah, Bradley heads it back across, and then it finds its way back to Jack Moylan, who's just ghosted through the whole of the Huddersfield defence, and then just puts it across on target. And you just think, that was really close. Maybe a little bit more towards the near post, and that goes in, but he's under pressure from the goalkeeper. He's done a really good job to get that on target. And we go in at the break 2-1 down. Not something that we've seen for quite a while. How are we feeling at half-time, Charlie?
I'm sat there thinking, when was the last time we were losing at half-time? Genuinely, again, probably Wickham. Yeah. Look, at half-time, well, first of all, that Moylan chance, I'm totally with you. That actually kind of, again, buoyed my spirits even further than what the goal did, and really made me think, okay, actually, again, like, shut up, Charlie, just sit down, you're fine, we're okay. You don't need to just reach for the whiskey yet, we're all right. That's a celebratory drink at the end of the night, we don't need to panic. And again, by the way, what you were saying with his run, totally agree. And this is what he does. Yeah. He did it on Saturday, his goal against Stockport, the way he was basically legging it towards where he knew the ball was going to be able to poke it into the back of the net was exceptional against Stockport. And to be able to do something very similar and find himself the space to be able to kind of get himself in the madhouse of the 6-yard box was really, really impressive at the end of the half as well. And like I say, that really just made me feel like we were going back in the right direction. I still wanted a halftime change, I'll be honest. I still felt that we were potentially going to be riding our luck if we weren't careful, because you never know how the opposition is going to come out in the second half. And because they started so well in the first, I say so well, they were they were able to exploit our weaknesses rather than them being able to overpower us and overstroke and sort of be stronger than us overall. But coming out for the second half, they probably would have had a little bit of a shout at them at half time, maybe a water bottle or two thrown in the good old Football Manager tactics, because they could feel themselves letting the game slip towards the end of that first half. So then coming out the second, I just wanted a little bit more security. I wanted something a little bit more shored up. And obviously we got that in the first substitution that we saw at half time. But I do just want to touch on that very quickly whilst we do finish off talking about the first half, because Alfie Lloyd was the man who came off obviously at half time. And I just want to say actually how impressed I was with him in the first half. He got himself about just as much as we've seen him when he's playing when he comes on as a sub. He showed his strength. He showed his physicality when he was in a couple of duels. He also showed that he had a footballing head on his mind. Some of the passes and some of the moves that he was making, even if they didn't quite come off, you could tell that there was some sort of real strong thinking behind that, and there was some obviously clear ability behind it as well. And some of the runs he was making. I mean, Jack Moylan, you know, I've said on here before that at the start of Jack's Lincoln City career, he would frustrate me at times because sometimes I would just wish he released the ball and wouldn't try to do too much. I felt that a little bit yesterday. I felt that there was a couple of times when we were, especially when we were kind of 2-0 down, that it was probably just him getting frustrated just as much as anything else and wanting to create something and make something happen. But there was a couple of times where I thought Alfie Lloyd was in a really good position, and maybe that pass could have been played. Who knows? Could have played the pass and could have been immediately dispossessed and we wouldn't have got anything out of it. But the fact that he was in those positions, the fact that he's still getting himself about, was really impressed with his 45-minute cameo yesterday.
Yeah, no, I the thing is, where we were, it's difficult to get that sense of how the game is going from you know a tactical perspective, I guess. Other than, you know, like I say, seeing, we've got gaps in the midfield, I'm not sure what's happening here, and everything else. But yeah, I did watch the first half back a little bit earlier on, and I agree with you. I think Alfie Lloyd, while he didn't necessarily have the immediate goal threat that I think we've seen from him, and obviously, you know, it came to fruition on Saturday, it felt like he was doing the right things, and if you keep doing the right things, you will eventually get there. But he did have to come off at half time to kind of shore up the midfield a little bit. And Tom Bayliss came on to do that. I think realistically, it was either going to be, you know, Bayliss or Bartholomiev that came on. And yeah, you know, Tom comes on. And I'm going to run through some numbers for the second half. Actually, I'm not going to do that because we are going to go for a very quick break. Because
I was wondering where you were going there.
We've got. I've just realised we've ticked over half an hour, so we'll go for a very quick break, and then when we come back, we will talk about the second half. So see you the other side of this. Beautiful, right?
There has been a lot of talk about IKEA in the group, in the comments today.
I think it's because
I was getting very, very distracted trying to talk football, and everybody was talking about IKEA, and that means, and I now need to tell people that I've never actually been to IKEA.
There will be some people that say that you are missing out a key life experience. There are some people that are saying that they're probably right to do that, but you know, it's fine. You get some stuff. You get some meat. To be fair, the meatballs are pretty.
I just want the meatballs. I couldn't care less about furniture. Why would I want to buy flat pack furniture?
Pretty banging. Right, let's see. We've got in. The wife's in first in. Matt is second in. Flossie is in. Dave Sandal's in. It says hopefully no new manager bounce for Rotherham. We will talk about that because it's thrown all of our crap in for that one. Podcast Mum's in. Good evening, friends. David Larder's in. Up the pesky imps, listening from the M1 as usual. Good to see you for a couple, my friend, last night. Always good to see you, David. Ian's in, says evening all. We outsung the Huddersfield fans all match. Not a best performance, but precious point, especially with Cardiff losing and Bolton drawing 100%. Matt Povey, that away last night when Tyler put that ball in was unbelievable. Yes. Yes, it was. We're going to talk about that. Ollie's here. David Ward's here. Says, even gents, what a night. Sorry, still won't believe it due to mathematically possible. I was 3 months old the last time they dropped out of that division. We'll talk about that. It's happening. Believe it. It's happening. It's happening. It's happening. It's happening. Kate's here. Let's have a look. Who else have we got? There's just so many comments. We love every one of you for doing it. It's fantastic. It really is. This is all before we even went live, by the way. Just brilliant. I've just received a message from Rach that says IKEA is 6 miles from Reading Stadium. We're going to IKEA after the Reading game because I'm going to give Charlie a lift. There we go.
We're gonna break my IKEA.
Yeah, we're going to break the duck.
Yes, that's the word.
That's the word. Yes, I know where you were going.
That's the monetized word I was looking for.
Yes, there we go. John says so happy at the moment. Promotion party, Ben. It may well be a promotion party. Although if we achieve promotion by March, that would be pretty impressive. Roy is in, says happy birthday for yesterday. Thank you very much, my friend. Richard says that was a brilliant pick that Bubs took of me. Yeah, I think we'll come to it, but there was a moment that Bubs got on camera of me, which is unbelievable. Again, yeah, just so many comments once again. Do appreciate everything. Steve is in. Steve also says, interestingly, got a 4-0 win over Northampton on my birthday this year. Well, there you go.
My birthday.
David says, is there a Lego store in Meadowhall?
Oh, don't do this.
I would answer that with a big yellow bag. Of course there is.
Do you know what? There was also a comment, I can't find it now, but there was also a comment asking, it was actually more asking Rach whether or not you had a man cave for all your Lego.
I'm in it.
You don't, but you've got a room, haven't you, Ben?
I'm in it. That's what I mean. All that.
Surely people can see that big cabinet behind him. Trust me, I have been in that room. It is full, absolutely full of Lego.
Yeah. I can't do the thing that I wanted to do, but yeah, I can't take the blur off my camera because it's anyway. But yeah, let's have a look. There's too many bloody comments. It's brilliant. Where are we? Jacob's here. How are you boys up the Imps? We're good, mate. Here we are. Jacob. Very, very good, and it's good to see you in once again. Right, so
there was this comment that I've just quite liked.
IKEA is Lego for adults. Lego is Lego for adults, actually, because it says on the box that I've got over there. It says on the box, "Adults welcome." So, right, cool. Right, let's kick back in because don't want to sit here talking about Lego. Well, I do want to sit here talking about Lego, but there we go. Right, if we are ready, then we will go in 3, 2, 1. And we are back. Thank you so much for bearing with us during the advert, as it helps us keep the podcast alive. And I'm going to ignore the comment that Charlie's just put in our private chat because he's a bellend. Right. But yes, if you do want to help the podcast directly and the Stacey West in general, get yourself over to Patreon. Patreon.com/the Stacey West, and you can join our Patreon Discord, which is probably the best place to talk about Lincoln City on the internet. There we go. I've said it. I've said many things, and many things have been true. That is one of them. Right, let's talk about the second half then, Charlie, because we came out, we changed the shape back to something that we're pretty familiar with, and let's just talk about some numbers briefly. So, in the second half, 62% possession for Lincoln City, 2.0 expected goals, 13 shots, 4 shots on target, 5 corners. Where else have we got? Shots inside the box, 10 shots outside the box, 3.
46 duels,
46
20 ground duels, 26 aerial duels. Everything was coming up Lincoln City, wasn't it?
We were absolutely dominant in that second half, and I think Huddersfield were genuinely scared. Mm-hmm. We came out looking like the Lincoln City that we know can play. And for what it's worth, Huddersfield had 2 shots, and I think both were blocked. It just goes to show that, yeah, we switched back to something that we knew and that we were comfortable with, admitted that it wasn't quite working, and everything started to click. Now, as we were going in, we'll run through, the moments. So House had an effort early doors in the second half. And I think there was one effort where there were some very, very half-hearted shouts for a penalty, but it was just a decent challenge from the keeper, wasn't it? I just think it seemed to be... We came back out with the purpose that I think we were maybe... I don't want to say lacking, because I don't think we ever lack purpose, but I think we came out with the real intensity and the know-how of how to get by this Huddersfield side.
Absolutely. Again, from what we were saying beforehand, that was the first time during, obviously, this whole unbeaten run that I can think of where we've gone into half-time being behind. So we needed to show something a little bit different than what we haven't shown over the last 3 or 4 months, what we haven't needed to show over the past 3 or 4 months. And we did exactly that. We came out with that high intensity that we know that we can do. We came out not fearing having the ball and having lots of possession and being able to work with it. There's so often there's this rhetoric of we're good because we play without the ball if we have the ball, and we're kind of quick, we're direct, we counter attack. But in terms of having the ball and creating chances from nothing and all of that, how are we able to kind of do that throughout a full 45-minute period? Well, yesterday we showed that we absolutely can do that, and we can win in whatever way we want, because we're Lincoln City. And yeah, was really, really impressed coming out and showing that battle from the start, from the get-go, and again, getting the balls into the right area of the pitch early on to show our intent. And exactly as you said, honestly, it petrified Huddersfield. You could see it in their body language, from the bench, from the players, from the way that their defenders were stepping back, not willing to step up. They weren't having that same level of intensity that we saw from them early on, and thinking that they could exploit any weaknesses, because suddenly the only weakness that they probably were exploiting, which was that kind of isolated number 6 role, they no longer had that to be able to aim for. They felt lost, and we felt like we were turning up the gears every time the minutes ticked on. That was the words I was looking for.
Words are hard, Charlie. It's fine.
Yeah, look, I'm talking about Lincoln City, okay? I've run out of words to say that are good, okay? We are good.
Are we good? Yeah, Sorry, it went on, and I think one moment that maybe changed things a little bit from a Huddersfield perspective, the goal scorer Ryan Hardy going off. I don't think there was anything that was a challenge. I think he landed awkwardly, and had to go off. But when you go on, when you're a manager and you have the ability to bring on Alfie May, Lasse Sorensen, and Marcus Harness from the bench, personnel-wise, it's an embarrassment of riches that they've got, isn't it?
I mean, I'm Marcus McGuane, former Barcelona player.
Yeah, I mean, within 8 minutes, they brought on Alfie May, Lasse, and Marcus Harness. And you look at that and you think, bloody hell, like, it is amazing that we've managed to compete this way. And if you haven't listened to Sunday's podcast with Gary's pitch perfect rant about why he doesn't particularly enjoy Huddersfield Town, it's well worth listening to. And it's bang on, because it just feels, when you look at their squad and you look at what they've done, it just feels like you're buying the best people, or the best players, throwing them on the pitch and going, there you go, do the thing. So, well, I don't know what we're doing. And I don't know what keeps going wrong for them, but, their fans are not happy. And, I didn't mind it, to be honest, because it meant that we could absolutely dominate last night. Anyway, we then brought Rico Hackett on, Ryan One came on, and the game was just all Lincoln. And then there was a moment where there was an absolutely fantastic save. I will credit this all day long. I think it was Rob Street had a shot. He got down well, got his hand to it twice, and then managed to put it out for a corner. The only problem with that is that player was Josh Feeney. And he's not a goalkeeper. Now, how on earth the referee or the linesman didn't see that is beyond me. Like, the referee, you can give him the benefit of the doubt because he's got a crowd of players to see through, and he's also got to spot that. The linesman is bang in line with it, and he's watched Josh Feeney dribble the ball, basically. It hits his arm once, and then as he goes down, he swipes at it again. There is not a clearer penalty that you will see all season, and we were absolutely apoplectic in the stands because you can see it in the highlights. As soon as it happens, it was all over. Just awful decision. It would have been a second yellow card. He would have gone off. And in that instance, I think if he goes and we score that penalty, we go on to win that game comfortably. Not just, get it 3-2. I think we go on and get a couple because they had their heads down at that point. So, yeah, full of rage. And you can see in everybody's face, it was just, we were absolutely livid, Charlie.
I will so often give referees the benefit of the doubt because I feel very hypocritical saying, how the hell didn't he see that? and chanting about going to spec saves and all of that, right? It just doesn't feel right me doing it. But there are moments where you think it is so plainly obvious that either you or your officiating team should have seen that and should have the kahunas to blow for it, even if you've already given a corner. That's the thing that annoyed me, because I don't know, but by the reaction that from watching that back again and again, I have a feeling that the referee realised he made a mistake.
Oh, absolutely.
And I just don't think he had the bottle to turn around and override or have the perception that the lino had overridden his decision. And that pisses me off more than getting the decision wrong in itself. If you get the decision wrong in itself and you physically couldn't see it, your lino wasn't keeping up or also had bodies and it was just in and around a big sort of swarm, then do you know what? I sit back and I say, as really frustrated as I am, I don't know what else you could have done there. Genuinely, I can have a bit of sympathy because I can't just attack you because I don't know what you could have done more. But yesterday, we know what he could have done more. We know what his officiating team could have done more. Genuinely, that was more blatant than the most blatant handball that I've seen all season, which was against Blackpool when it was right in front of the fourth official and the lad running down the wing just decided to smack the ball.
Oh, yeah.
The other week, right? And that in itself was unbelievably obvious. Yesterday's was even worse for that. You can't even argue any bounces, it bouncing off his hand or anything like that, or it's behind his natural position. It's not
it
obviously.
Happened twice.
No, yeah, well, that's the thing. And it didn't bounce before it hit his arm. Like, if it bounced off the ground back up and hit his arm, and that was the first contact, I also can sit there and say, right, it's bounced off his arm, he was falling, his arm's in a natural position, But no, the first contact with his arm, and then it bounced down and bounced back up and hit his arm again. It was one of the worst decisions.
Yeah.
And like I said, I genuinely do think, from watching the reaction, the linesman saw it and the referee didn't overturn it. He also, for those of you that may have seen, did this really weird VAR hand signal to Tendai. I don't know what on earth that was about.
I heard about that. I didn't see it.
It just goes...
That's really weird.
Honestly, I was... And again, that kind of points to me. Tendai's obviously gone up to complain, and he's probably just tried to be really smarmy with a comment of, no VAR here, pal. I don't know, maybe that's me talking about him as a character more. But it
I
was
think
so frustrating because it felt like we were getting back on top. We were performing to a good level. We looked like we were hitting that same level of intensity, that relentless imps that we've seen so many times this season. And all that was sat there in the back of my mind was Exeter at home.
Yeah.
We're going to batter these for this second half, and it's just not going to happen. And
Yep.
that every kind of positive feeling that I'd started to feel about this game, what I had done when that first goal went in, what I had done when we had that chance just before half time, and I'm thinking, well, we're going to get back into this. Don't worry. Honestly, we have got the upper hand on these quite easily. It then started to fade back out, and what faded back in was that fear of this isn't going to be our day, is it?
No, absolutely, and not our day. I think I actually sent that message at one point to our WhatsApp because I was fuming because when you can see it as blatantly as that, and to your point, if the referee knows he's made a mistake and he thinks to himself, right, I can change this here, there is a very easy and admittedly slightly performative way of doing it, right? If you know you've got that decision wrong, you go over to your linesman and you have the conversation with them. You push the players away. You say, right, I'm pretty sure he's handled it there. Has he handled it? And if the linesman says, well, it's hit his hand, the referee then goes, okay, I'm going to call it a penalty. It's performative, but it gives the referee a chance to change his mind without, looking weak, I guess. Because the linesman's obviously got a better view, and there's a vlog actually of somebody that was sat bang in line with that moment, and you can see there is a clear as day line of sight between the linesman and the handball, and yeah, it was just an awful decision. But let's talk about more positive things because the players that came on, I thought Rico Hackett probably shifted the game a little bit even more in our favour. Being able to get down the wing more effectively than Dom Jeffries did. And that's no shade on Dom Jeffries whatsoever. But I think Rico Hackett just offers that little bit more pace and width. And obviously, as we've said, with with Dom having that conversation, having that the limitation on how much he can play at the moment, going off on 62 minutes, Rico coming on. I thought he was exceptional last night, getting down there, gave Lass an absolutely torrid time, and put quite a few crosses in that could have seen us get there a little bit earlier than we actually did, Charlie.
Yeah, absolutely. It was again sort of chance after chance after chance that felt like we were suddenly exploiting their weaknesses, didn't it? We were finding those spaces exactly like you were just saying there, and we were getting in behind them as well to create opportunities. And there was times where we probably had the ball out wide and there wasn't really the options or that we'd maybe hoped for in the middle. There was times where the little short pass, there was one where I think there was a little short pass into Adam Reach from sort of the wide left that sort of came in, and again it was like a really well worked opportunity, but this final touch was just that slight bit heavier, or there was a good save, or there was a good block, or there was a good tackle last minute, but we were certainly really knocking on the door for a long time there, and again, obviously I very much still had that fear, but you certainly wouldn't have been surprised to see us score more than one even as the clock ticked over to added time. You still felt like there was a chance that we could win the game. We were still 2-1 down.
100%. 2-1 down. Yeah, 100%.
That's what I said. Sorry. Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. But no, there was a really, really good chance from Sonny Bradley as well. From I think it was from a corner. Really strong header.
Oh,
just slightly not far into the corner enough. But Nichols did really well to get down and save that. And it's those moments when previously you look at it, you go, it's not our day. It's not our day. Any other day that goes in. But then, Adam Reach goes off, and we have yet to hear anything about Adam Reach and his injury. But he didn't go down under a challenge. I think it was, again, another awkward landing. And, previously, start of the season, you'd maybe think, oh, Adam Reach has gone off. Riley Taylor's coming on. Okay. Now, I think everybody's going to say Adam Reach is going off. Oh, Riley Taylor's coming on. Okay. Riley came on. I think he did another really good job. Again, check out Sunday's podcast for a good discussion on what Riley Taylor's brought to the side, because he's been fantastic.
If you ask Emily.
Yes, hair. And it's got to be doors, hasn't it? It's got to be doors. I hadn't seen that video until a couple of weeks ago, and it is just absolutely priceless. So yeah, doors. But another. We just kept knocking on the door, like you say. We just kept battering away, absolutely battering away. And one thing that I do want to talk about before we come into additional injury time with, in the moment, shall we say, I want to talk about Deji Elarawe, because he came on for Tendai Darikwa on 86 minutes. Tendai goes off. He's still fuming about the penalty. He throws his bib down. He's absolutely livid, right? It's not because he's got to come off. He just wants to win. Mm-hmm. And he's seen that as the moment. Deji comes on, right? We make a big deal sometimes out of the numbers. Even though Deji was on the pitch for 8 minutes, he won 5 out of 5 aerial duels, 1 out of his 2 ground duels, and he looked like an absolute unit. I was so impressed with him last night. Everything that came on, came to him, he managed to get the flick on. Mm-hmm. And he was directly involved in the goal as well. He just looks like a really, really tidy player. And I think he's going to be an absolute baller for us. He just looked superb last night, and I hope we can get to see a little bit more of him before the end of the season. Maybe once things are possibly a bit more secure, shall we say. We'll be able to experiment a little bit. But no, I thought Deji had an absolutely superb cameo, and I just wanted to highlight it more than anything else.
No, I totally agree with you. And I think when you bring a new player on, because that's not his first time on the pitch, is it? He did come on in a home game.
Came on last week.
Yeah. But still, to see him come on, and all you want when you have got a new signing that you're kind of slowly bedding into the team, all you want to see is that when they do come onto the pitch, you want to see a bit of fight, you want to see a bit of heart, a bit of desire, and you want to see them truly getting stuck in. Mm-hmm. For example, people are absolutely loving Alfie Lloyd at the minute because that's what he does when he comes onto the pitch. People are obviously loving Ryan One because he has that kind of pace to be able to get in behind. He's one of the flair players and can create something out of very, very little. A lot of the reason why people love Ivan so much, again, when he first came in, you would see him getting stuck in. He'd get himself about. He'd make sure that he was in and around and part of the action. That's exactly what Deji did yesterday as well. As a centre-half, you can quite easily come onto the pitch, kind of, especially when we were so front-footed as the game went on. You could probably quite easily be the one that says, actually, I'll stay back. I'll just be the last man just in case there's a counter-attack. Don't you worry about me, sort of a thing. He wasn't doing any of that, was he? He was helping the ball get forward just as much as everybody else at that time. So, yeah, I was really, really impressed with him. Looked a unit, definitely looked like he wasn't just tall. It sounds silly, but you sometimes see sort of tall players who maybe have the build where you think that he's going to be a unit, he's going to be able to do something, but actually they're quite weak in their challenges, they're quite weak in their duels, and the image is deceiving in a way. Didn't see that at all yesterday with Deji either. So, I'm with you. It was impressed. And honestly, I thought he was the one who was going to get the goal at one point because he had the chance to, didn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I really thought that it was going to sort of be a bit of a fairy tale moment for him. But how it actually ended was he was the only player who played for us outfield yesterday, I do believe now, who hasn't had a league goal this season.
That's frightening, isn't it?
Bear in mind, he's only played 2 games.
Yes. Well, he's probably played about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So until last night, we had 18 goal scorers. After last night, we had 19 goal scorers. because 93rd minute goes out for a throw in. You think, okay, we know what's coming here. And you could sense it. As soon as the board went up for 8 minutes, you could feel things start to change. The belief was there for us. It dissipated for Huddersfield. It just got sucked out of the ground. Ball goes out for a throw. Tom Hamer goes to take it. A little bit of a ricochet. I think Deji actually flicked it on into the box, or into the 6-yard box. It comes back off one of the Huddersfield defenders. And who's there? Our 19th goal scorer of the season, Riley Towler, prods it in. Cue absolute bedlam in the away end. It was unbelievable. And we'll talk about the celebrations in a sec, but he nearly scored shortly before that with a header. Bloody hell, Charlie. I think that was all we could say in the group chat coming away from the ground, was just bloody hell. Unbelievable.
I didn't even know quite what to think, what to do, what to say when that goal went in. When we had been knocking on the door for so, it felt like the last 30 minutes felt like we were 1-0 down in a Champions League final in the last 2 minutes. That's what we had made that whole end of the game feel like. And again, it was because of our relentless intensity and the attitude of that never give up, never die. And obviously, as we know, it very much paid off with just, again, players, every fan wants a 20-goal-a-season striker. But honestly, I couldn't care less about that one. I've got players like Riley Towler, who hasn't scored a goal all season, but comes on the pitch, and my God, he's getting himself in those positions. The exact same with what Deji did 2 minutes before that. The exact same with Sonny Bradley's header from earlier on, where, there are defenders.
Yeah.
They're defenders. But they don't care. None of these players are going to be pigeonholed into saying, you have to do this role, you have to do this role. They will all be getting themselves in and around those areas to be able to put the ball in the back of the net towards the end of a game, towards the start of a game, for God's sake. Every single opportunity there is, they all want to be part of it. There's a comment, actually, it may have scrolled down now, but there's a comment on our YouTube at the minute that says, Riley Towler plays like he's just having fun.
Yeah.
I agree with that. And he does. He seems to have this sort of, and again, maybe it's very easy to say with a bit of recency bias last night because he scored the goal, but he plays with this kind of youthful exuberance and the boyish smile on his face of saying, yeah, look at me, doors. But it is, and it's great to see that so many of the players have that kind of an attitude towards the football that they're playing. And the only times they don't have is when things maybe aren't going their way or aren't going the team's way, not even their way, but aren't going the team's way, and they storm off the pitch a la Tendai Dariqua. But he did that, again, because of just how much he was caring about getting a result. Realistically, we didn't need to get anything out of last night's game to still get promoted. But that doesn't mean that every single player on that pitch didn't want us to go out and get something. And honestly, it felt like half the Huddersfield players wanted us to get something all the way they were playing.
Yeah, no, it was just an unbelievable moment. I mean, Riley getting his goal, and then he said in the post-match, I just wanted to get in among the fans. I think he just got a bit jealous of Alfie Lloyd on Saturday, to be honest.
They're all at it. I'm going to say, what's this? What on earth is going on? Who's going to start running up to the 617 fans up in Upper 7 on Saturday now?
Who's going to be the first one to run over to the green link and go in there and jump in there? Probably nobody.
Sorry.
Look, I mean, just unbelievable passion, unbelievable moment. He jumps over. If you watch the highlights back, you'll see social media Stu getting fully involved straight away. Just fantastic. Riley then jumping into the front row of all the fans. Absolute bedlam. And I know, over the past few weeks, I think we've seen 3 away performances that have given 3 completely different sets of emotions. Cardiff, I think, set a lot of people off because that was the game that we didn't necessarily expect that we would win. Exeter was a game that I think we expected to win, and it was a tough, attritional game. And then yesterday was a game that I don't know. Huddersfield's one of those grounds. We've never gotten anything from there. We've never gotten anything from there. And then we go there last night, and you watch it, you think, oh Christ, here we go again. Pavel Abbott, Andy Booth, all of that. It just felt like it was going to capitulate. But this team doesn't know when they're beaten. This team doesn't know when they're dead. And we came away from the game with a 2-2 draw. Fully deserved. I think we probably could have gone on to win it if we'd have scored that a few minutes earlier, Charlie.
Honestly, I half thought that we were going to go on to win it anyway.
Yeah.
But do you know what? That's 2 games in Stockport and Huddersfield back to back where, do you know what? There were parts of both matches where we probably didn't look our best. First half against Sunderland for the reasons that we've spoken about. Stockport, I felt we were a little bit lackluster at times, and you could tell that it had been towards the sort of the end of a season, and maybe things were just starting to catch up with us a little bit at times in that match. And yet, okay, we didn't beat Huddersfield, but we could have done exactly like you've said. And we found a way to get something big out of both of those matches. Stockport, they came back at us and we were relentless. Once again, getting 2 goals late on to be able to secure that and shut them up. And realistically, though, people that don't watch the game, they just see the result at the end of the day. I went out for a meal on Saturday night with a friend of mine who is a Lincoln fan, but had been working all day on the Saturday, and he'd only seen the score. And he was like, bloody hell, that's another incredible result. Yeah, it is. It's nice to say that, because it is. Huddersfield away last night, exactly the same. There were times where we maybe weren't at our best. There were times when things didn't quite drop right, where you could argue that maybe we should have set up slightly differently in the first half. But do you know what? We wouldn't have had that same euphoria with that last-minute equaliser if we had. Granted, we may have won 4-0. Who knows? We could have lost 3-0. It's football. It's bloody brilliant.
Imagine not liking football.
Oh,
Imagine
honestly,
not liking football.
Anybody who doesn't like football, I pity them.
Anyway, right. We'll wrap that up. Just another fantastic night. Another point on the way. My maths makes it 3 wins to be mathematically certain of playing Championship football next season. However, let's be honest, I think we're there. I think we're nearly there. I'm getting very excited about all this. I've seen a couple of comments in the live chat suggesting that we're going for a long special episode of the podcast tonight. We're not. It's just that we'd done a load of research on Rotherham, and then they went and screwed it all up by sacking Matt Hamshaw.
And bringing in certainly an interesting choice in Lee Clark. A manager who has been out of English football since the turn of the decade, back in 2020 when he relegated Blythe Spartans, I believe it was. He was with Bury before that, back in 2017. And between then, he has been in Sudan and Oman. It's certainly an interesting appointment when they are desperate for points, absolutely desperate. And who knows, they may need something, but I certainly don't know if this is the right answer, and I don't really know what this is going to do for them going into next season, if they could even be playing League 2 football.
Yeah, if you had to ask me for a word on this,
he's thinking the word.
Desperate. I'm getting the word. No, for me, it's desperate. Rotherham, they've been on a slide. Looking at the form, last 6, they've drawn 2, lost 2, and won only 1. They're currently 6 points behind Wigan. 6 points behind Wigan and Exeter. They've got a game in hand over Exeter, but their goal difference is absolutely dire. They're on -20. Mm-hmm. This feels to me like they've just panicked and they've got rid of Hamshaw. But you've got to, like you say, you've got to figure out where a win's coming from. I mean, looking at the next fixtures that they've got coming up, they've got us, Then they've got Stevenage at home. They've got Port Vale away. They've got Barnsley at home. And then they've got Wigan away. Now, Barnsley have pulled away from it all at the minute. I think Barnsley are, pretty much at the point where some fans might be looking at the playoffs, but I think they'd probably be a bit deluded. They're 9 points adrift, 9 points behind the playoffs. But those two games in quick succession over the 11th and the 14th of April, Rotherham and Wigan, they feel like the absolute pivotal ones for Rotherham's season. I think the biggest question for us, are they going to get a new manager bounce, Charlie? Because that always seems to happen. Even though this is a short-term contract for Lee Clark, it is only till the end of the season. But is that going to be enough? And do we think that we might see a renewed Rotherham? Bear in mind what happened at their place earlier on in the season.
Well, I don't think there'll be a game anything like that, honestly. Look, Rotherham, they could bounce back a little bit. I don't like interim managers. I don't think they command the same amount of respect in the dressing room as an actual manager who the players
like a substitute teacher, isn't it?
Exactly. And they will always have rings run around them, won't they? And especially with where they are, a lot of the players will probably just be playing for themselves. They'll be playing for their own situation next season, and rather than the club situation. So hopefully, we can kind of pounce on that disjointed nature that we might end up seeing. The other side of it is I could not care less how Rotherham how Rotherham think that they're going to be able to do when they come to us, because I just want to focus on us. And I think that we have enough to beat any team in this league. I mean, we've shown that. And Rotherham, again, coming disjointed, coming a little bit fresh, maybe with a new manager, but also coming at the end of what has been a tough couple of weeks for them. And they haven't had that same kind of buoyancy as what we've had with, a last-minute equaliser on Tuesday night. That could very much help us going into Saturday and trying to play with that same intensity for the full 90 minutes that we showed for the last 30 at Huddersfield, or at least the first 30 minutes on Saturday. Trying to match that sort of a level is going to really help us. Whereas they're coming off the back of some really lackluster performances, a 0-0, a 1-0 loss, a 2-2 draw, yes, but then a 5-0 loss yesterday to Peterborough. New manager bounce or not, I struggle to see them being able to take it to us like we have seen from a couple of sides over the course of this unbeaten run.
You know what? I'm in agreement. I think just that 3-0 is sat at the back of my head going, yeah, but they dicked you over in December or November. It's like, yeah, but
it feels like a different season though, doesn't it? It genuinely doesn't feel like that was only a couple. Realistically, that was only a few games before this unbeaten run started, but it feels a totally different campaign.
Yeah, it's mad. I can't see much past a Lincoln City win if we play to our strengths. However, there is always that, the unknowns, the untenable things that we always talk about that we have in abundance, and one of those could well be a new manager bounce. We shall see. We'll put our predictions out later in the week, as we always do. And I think, I'll be brutally honest, I haven't organised a preview this week. I don't know if you will have done.
No, we haven't. I don't think I actually have a Rotherham contact. We will see what we can do. But if not, here is your preview. We're good. They're not. We'll win. They won't. That was easy.
Have you ever seen the film Matilda, Charlie?
That is exactly what I was kind of halfway through that. I thought, actually, I now need to carry this on. That could be quite good. Well,
we're going to start calling you Danny DeVito from now on, but there we go.
Perfect.
Right. I don't think there's anything else that's come out of the club between Sunday and today, other than a very, very refreshing last-minute goal from Riley Towler and an unbelievable set of celebrations to all the fans. Where was it? Blake says, how's your jaw, Ben? I saw a photo where it looked like you dislocated it. That was, probably my favourite photo of me that's been taken in the past few years. Unbelievable work, Bubs. Thank you very much, mate. But, Charlie, that's going to do us. What do you reckon we're going to do on Saturday other than win? I can't see. I just can't see us doing anything other than winning.
Drink.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll have a couple. It'll be nice. 3 wins needed, unless Bolton start dropping more points, which we can all hope for. But let's be honest, I think we're pretty much up. Right, as is always the way. One thing left to say. Up the Imps.
Up the promotion Imps.